Our next panel will address the private sector and the future of work for people with disabilities. You will be astounded by this panel and what they have to say. Again, there are 22 million working age people with disabilities in America, and fewer than 1 in 3 has a job. Learn from the top experts who are enabling employers. I'm going to open this topic with a keynote from Mark Fenauer, Executive Director of the Support Services Group, Bank of America. We have the pleasure of working at Respectability with Bank of America, a company that employs literally thousands of people with disabilities. So, Mark, you're on.
Thank you, Steve. On behalf of my teammates at Bank of America, thank you for including us today as part of this important discussion. I'd like to spend a few minutes talking about our philosophy on why, when we choose to include, everyone wins. We work every day to make sure that we're creating a workplace where all our employees, including those with hidden or visible disabilities, have an opportunity to succeed and achieve their goals. 1/2 of the world's population is touched by disabilities, and the employees at Bank of America reflect this global reality. We have staffing teammates that are dedicated to hiring candidates with many disabilities, intellectual, physical, and hidden. We partner with national agencies and local community-based organizations to expand our collective impact and provide people with disabilities equal access to employment opportunities. This extends to disabled veterans and partnerships with organizations like the Department of Defense's Hiring Our Heroes, Vocational Rehabilitation, and Goodwill Industries. And that's why this year we are a signatory of the Joint Investor Statement on Disability Inclusion, doubling the assets managed by the Investor Coalition to a total of $2.8 trillion, encouraging companies they invest in to advance inclusion of people with disabilities. We work every day to make sure that we're creating a workplace where all our employees can reach their full potential. Our commitment to inclusion is evident in our benefits and programs designed to support those with disabilities and ensure that all employees can make meaningful contributions at our company. This commitment starts at the top. Our Disability Advisory Council, which is led by Kathy Besant, our Chief Operations and Technology Officer and a member of our bank's management team. The Council aligns disability inclusion and accessibility strategies for employees, clients, and communities across the bank. Assisting the Council is our Disability Advocacy Network, DAN for short, which has nearly 12,000 members and 31 chapters around the world. And DAN leaders and members are influential in making the bank an employer of choice for external candidates who have a disability. In addition to being the 30th anniversary of the ADA, our Support Services team is also celebrating its 30th anniversary. Support Services was created in 1999 and had 3 employees. Today, we have 300. We are an in-house marketing and fulfillment operation staffed by employees with developmental disabilities. Our team operates in multiple locations and supports every major line of business within the enterprise. Everything they touch affects the customer. For individuals regularly facing barriers to employment, this team provides the opportunity to achieve financial stability and become successful members of their communities while producing material that is vital to Bank of America's business continuity. We're just like any other business, we just happen to have a different talent pool that we draw from. In addition to being outstanding teammates, many of our Support Services employees are athletes. Through our partnership with Special Olympics, they are achieving their goals on the field and through leadership opportunities, employment, and skills building. We are equally committed to ensuring we are meeting the needs of our customers with intellectual and physical disabilities, which sometimes may be hidden. That starts with making sure we are always improving our product offerings and the accessibility of our services. For clients who are visually impaired or blind, we have rolled out AIRA technology in all 4,300 financial centers and all remote ATMs across the U.S. This complimentary service connects clients to highly trained AIRA professionals who help them safely navigate our financial centers and remote ATMs. Additionally, all of our ATMs are talking ATMs that allow our clients to receive private, spoken instructions through a headset that plugs into an audio jack. Our focus on environmental, social, and governance supports the work to customize our financial education program, Better Money Habits, for people with intellectual disabilities. Our Disability Advocacy Network members and our Bank of America volunteers deliver this training to our Support Services teammates and many organizations who support people in disabled communities. We've also customized Better Money Habit modules for those who use American Sign Language and are delivering training to the deaf community. As we celebrate the ADA's 30th anniversary and all that's been done to create opportunities for people with disabilities, we know we need to do more, and we need to do more now. It's not enough just to say something. We must also do something, and I encourage you to continue to find ways to bring in talents of people with disabilities to your organization. As you can probably tell, I am passionate about my support services team and everything the bank is doing to be the employer of choice and the bank of choice for people with disabilities. In closing, I want you to meet one of support services teammates, Alan Price. Alan works in Boston and joined the bank in 2018, and we are thrilled he's part of our team.
I feel like I'm in a place where I can learn and grow and be accepted for being different, because I think that's a huge thing that Bank of America is doing, is accepting people with learning disabilities like myself. But to still have a college degree, I have a great job, I live on my own now, and that's a really good feeling for me. I'm trying to do my best in this world. Sense of pride in myself and be the best I can be every day and be the man I know I can be.
Thank you, Mark, for that timely message and for everything that you and Bank of America are doing both today with your participation, but also your outstanding work as employers of people with disabilities. You've truly made a difference. And of course, we thank you for your partnership with Respectability. It's great to have you on our team. Now let's welcome 3 of Respectability's board members who are experts on disability employment. I will turn it over to our moderator, Randall Duchesneau. He is our newly elected, as of Tuesday, Secretary of Respectability's board. So Randy, you need to get those minutes in right away. And a longtime disability advocate. He's going to introduce our 2 panelists and who are some of the nation's leading innovators on disability inclusion in the workplace. Randy, the Zoom work floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Steve. It's great to be here today to celebrate the 30th anniversary of the ADA. I'm joined today by Vincenzo Biscopo and Jim Sinocchi. Vincenzo works as Community and Stakeholder Relations Director for the Coca-Cola Company, where he manages the relationships with disability, veterans, and Hispanic organizations, as well as United Way and Hands On Atlanta. He has worked for the Coca-Cola Company for the last 22 years in different areas of the organization: finance, IT, marketing, and innovation. He has a bachelor's degree in economics, an MBA from Carnegie Mellon, and a master in creativity from Buffalo State College. He is the president and founding member of Disabilities Business Resource Group for the Coca-Cola Company, and the president and founder of the Wheels of Happiness Foundation, where he uses his expertise to help people with motor disabilities in disadvantaged areas of the world. He was born and grew up in Venezuela, plays wheelchair tennis, and is married with 4 kids. Our other panelist today is Jim Sinocchi. Jim works closely with senior leaders across JP Morgan Chase to establish consistent standards and processes to better support employees with disabilities. The office also supports employees who care for disabled family members. Jim Sinocchi is keenly aware of these issues and challenges facing people with disabilities, as he sustained a spinal cord injury early in his business career. He has been active in creating awareness and understanding of disability inclusion through his blog, View from the Chair. He has served on the boards of Jawanio, an organization focused on the well-being and equality of people with disabilities, and the Human Rights Commission in Rockland County, New York. He is also a member of the Viscardi Center Board of Directors, a special education school in New York for severely disabled students. Thank you, Jim and Vincenzo, for joining us today.
Thank you.
This panel celebrates the 30th anniversary of the ADA, and it looks at the future of work for people with disabilities. As such, what are some positive examples of employers and practices that are really successful moving towards a bright, better future for workers with disabilities?
So who do you want,
I'll direct this question first to Vincenzo.
Great, thank you so much, Randy. First of all, thank you so much, Respectability, for inviting me to this panel for one more time. And also, it's an honor for me to be a board member of Respectability, an organization that actually makes me super proud, extremely proud, especially, when I see the impact that is having on the community of people with disability. So I think that, there are several good examples of of how employers and practices are really successfully moving towards a bright, better future for workers with disability. And one that was mentioned in the previous panels is our presence, the presence of people with disability in advertising and in movies and in TV and all that. By having those, people with disability in front and behind the camera, basically is having a triple effect. The first effect is that it's empowering the people with disability because they see them in camera and they see, all the potential and all that. Second, it actually creates a brilliant cycle, if, for lack of a better word, because, the more that we have people with disability on TV, the more that organizations feel and get the pressure to actually have representation in advertising and in shows and so on and so forth. And the more that we have those people, our representation on TV, the more the need is to really understand the people with disability reality, the more that it becomes important for us as organization to hire people with disability so that we can be well represented. It's something that we always say is nothing about us without us. And by having people with disability represented in ads allows us for, to be able to create that pressure, to be more present and to hire more people that know about, having that presence. The other thing that is happening, and this is more general, is the fact that, social responsibility is becoming extremely important for organizations and in organizations. So consumers are no longer they are no longer okay with organizations that are not taking a stand for social issues. And employees are not very patient with that. I can tell you as an employee of the Coca-Cola company, with the recent social unrest, Coca-Cola was very fast, not only at creating a stand, but also to making a difference, making an impact. But a little bit because that's part of our purpose, but also because our employees pressure and requested that to happen. So social responsibility becomes so important for organizations that is making organizations like Coca-Cola and many others being very attentive on things related to diversity, to inclusion, because they know that the eyes of employees and the eyes of consumers are on them for those kind of things. And finally, another thing that I feel that is happening that is extremely important is that paradigm shift or change between charity to opportunity. The whole thing that, people with disability really, really don't need your charity. People with disability need opportunities. And once you give them opportunities, they can add value to you, to society, to organizations and all that. And that shift in paradigm is creating a lot of noise in organizations that is making them realize, that having people with disability in their workforce is not just a nice thing to do, but actually a very smart thing to do.
Jim, do you have anything to add?
No, I think what Vince is right on the spot. I think from my point as an employer, which I've espoused for 4 years at JP Morgan Chase and 39 years at IBM while I was a marketing communications executive, and disability inclusion wasn't my primary role. I think there's several venues that we have to look for when it comes to this population of disabled employees. I think number one is full employment, as full as we can make it. Number two is, repairing or enhancing our transportation infrastructure. And number three is, letting people work, and this is not in play, but I've had discussions about it. I'd like people to go to work while they're getting government benefits, which in some states are allowed, to enable people to work and not just get, government money. Go out and get public money that you've earned, but you don't lose your benefits. And the reason I'm thinking this way is because people with disabilities can come to the table in small and medium businesses where most of our people are employed, but have the benefit of medical care and aids, etc., to get them to work. And right now we're at an impasse because if you go to work, you lose your benefits. So what you do is stay, at home and don't work. So the idea is that we've got to move the bar so that it's just not a welfare, quote unquote, state, but an employment state. And I think people should be employed in any way they can. Matter of fact, in a simple study that I had done out in California, one of the things we found that if people of the ages of, say, 24 to 35 go back to work with disabilities, they could return almost $300 billion back to the economy while working. Right now, the government gets zero. So I think there is still room for inventiveness in this space, other than the traditional things we keep talking about, which moves very slowly, if at all.
Thank you very much, Jim. Our next question, which I'll direct to you first, Jim. COVID-19 has impacted how Americans live, how employees work, and how companies think about the future. By necessity, remote work has become an accepted part of professional life for thousands of workers. What can we do to make telework successful for their employees with disabilities? How does it impact the accommodations process? Jim, would you like to respond first?
Sure. I don't think it's accepted yet, but the experiment that we've had, at least at Chase, showed that most of our employees were working at home. We still had people come to work. Our traders, for example, had to come to work because of the systems they run on. But a lot of our employees, the majority of worked at home around the world. And the firm found that it was very productive. On the other side of that, the investment in our technology went up so that we can account for the power, the MIPS as they call them, to run our servers around the world for people working individually at home. So that was a challenge, but the firm stepped up to that. I think our firm also found that people were ethical workers at home. There was always some doubt that when you're working at home, you can't be watched by your manager or your colleagues, and are you ethical? And one of the good things about working in the bank is ethics are so important because we're dealing with clients and their funds, etc. So I think all businesses have found a utility there. Now, whether they're going to keep it up or not, your guess is as good as mine. I know at IBM, because I work for a technology company, and it's interesting that I work for a fintech company now, so they're as savvy as IBM was in my day. But at IBM, we were allowed to work from home because we had the technology to do it. And it was just an extension of our work. So I think our managers at Chase, because I've talked to them, found that work from home was good. And some of the enlightened managers at the firm quickly found out that people with disabilities can work from home quite well. And, everybody was on their greatest work ethic at the bank. And I'm sure there are exceptions, but for the most part, I think it worked out very well. I've been home since March after coming back from a trip in Washington, and I've been working from home quite effectively, meeting all the people, knowing the people. And technology, I always call the great equalizer for people with disabilities. And it really showed the equalization in doing work every day. And it's a wonderful thing to not only email people, but see people as we're doing now as we work. We're all working still. And so I think it's very possible. I don't know what the tolerance is going to be for long-term work at home, because if you remember, when you're in an institution, an organization of any sort, the networking is important, in person, personal meetings, meeting clients. So there are options to all that. I think that if we do a work at home thing, you're going to find more people are going to want to meet people for lunch on the outside like they do in business. And so I think this offers opportunities to see how this will work out, because face-to-face interaction is very possible. And interaction like this is as good, but it's not as good as sitting down and having lunch together and chatting. we got to remember the personal contact should be cherished, not feigned.
Vincenzo, what's been your experience at Coca-Cola, and how do you see telework impacting not only Coca-Cola but other businesses?
Yeah, no, it's for me. There has been a very interesting change. Learning actually, and and if we want to be extremely, a positive person, I mean, there is a little bit of benefit with this COVID craziness, and that has helped a couple of things for people with disability. One thing is that, that Jim mentioned, the equalization of technology, right? One thing that I think COVID and working from home has done is one that has made the accommodation mainstream, right? Now we're not worried about accommodation for people with disability. We are worried about accommodation, period, right? And like that is serving, organizations to realize the importance of accommodations and how accommodations can make a huge difference in the productivity of people. So I think that's a side benefit that we're getting that I think is being very, very interesting. The other thing that I feel is a benefit for people with disability is that, our houses normally, generally, are already accessible, right? We have already provided our own accommodations to ourselves. So if you give me the opportunity to work from home, you don't have to worry about if I'm able to, move around. You don't have to worry. And I'm talking about myself being a paraplegic. You don't have to worry about my bathroom being accessible or my house being accessible or my environment being accessible because I made it accessible already for me. So I'm making it very, very easy for people. So that might relieve a little bit of that that anxiety that organizations might have with with hiring people with disabilities. The other things, I know two more things, and I'll shut up, is that it is definitely making people realize that working from home can work and can be very effective. And for some people with disability, the opportunity to work from home is fundamental. And with this, what it's doing is showing people that actually working from home, you're as productive or more productive. I can tell you my example. I'm more productive working from home because my commute is 1.5 hours. And it takes me, for me, one hour to get ready in the morning. So those are 2.5 hours that I'm dedicating, to work, to my health, to my mental health and all that, making me more productive. However, one thing that I think has become extremely important for employees and for employers is to actually have a clear understanding of their community of people with disability and doing a very good self-identification campaign. Because the more that we know what is the population of people with disability in organization, the better job that we as organizations can make to make sure that all the community is taken care of in this remote environment.
Thank you very much, Vincenzo. And following up on that, as companies to look to build their future workforce and prepare for the new 21st century challenges, how should they look to integrate job seekers with disabilities into their talent pipelines? And how can they build leadership opportunities for existing employees with disabilities? Vincenzo, would you like to answer first?
Oh, sure. So, I mean, that's a very, very interesting question. And, the first thing that I have, that I always say, keep in mind that this is a journey. It's a marathon, and it's going to take time and all that. And there is many elements that you have to work at the same time to make sure that everything is effective. So it's not just one thing. There are many things related to your culture, to your infrastructure and all that you can do. So there is not one thing that can be done to accomplish this. However, from a tactical perspective, I think, first from a strategy perspective, one thing is that we have to have purposeful recruiting. and that's something that I know it makes people nervous sometimes because, some people might feel that they're being, people able-bodied might feel that they're being discriminated against. But I think at this point, same as as it happens to our African American community, there need to be purposeful recruiting, purposeful hiring. So, we have to go to campuses and actually hire for people with disability, and being very vocal to the fact that we hire for people with disability, because that creates, obviously you're more effective because you're actually going for that minority, but also because it sends a message to everybody that, hiring with people with disability is a thing, and it's an important thing for organizations. So that's
definitely made some great points there, Vincenzo. Jim, do you have anything to add as your perspective from JP Morgan Chase?
Yeah, I don't think we should shoo away or tout telework or work from home as the end all. I think because people love to meet people face to face. That's how you build relationships. I don't know that if you want to build a meaningful relationship with people, you need some human contact. You need to go to lunch with them. You need to talk to them. You need to take a walk with them at lunchtime or whatever. You got to get to know each other. And I think.
Do you think those meaningful relationships are important to help employers develop the pipeline and promote their employees internally to leadership?
That's where I was getting at. You have to meet people and watch them in action and see what they're made of to become a manager, to become an executive director, to become a director, etc. You need that camaraderie with people as well. So I'm not going to, yes, some people can work from home. There are telemarketers, there are tele-doctors, there are a lot of things like that. At the end of the day, the relationship building one-on-one is still important. I think our new generation of people are more comfortable with technology and telework, but I still seen in my long career in business, I'm going on 43 years in business, and I'm not subscribing to this because I can never go play golf with the business leaders because I'm in a wheelchair, and I can't even play miniature golf in a wheelchair. But the point is that people love getting together, getting to know each other, getting to build trust. And as good as technology is with communicating, trust is not sacred on the internet. You don't know who you're talking to sometimes, right? In business, it's different. You got set up security systems where you talk to people at work. But even at our bank, we have firewalls to protect accounts, but we also have firewalls to protect us from intruders that want to do bad things to the firm. So I think we've got to look at disability inclusion as a way that telework is an option for those people that think they want to get there and do it, but I don't think working at home all the time is a path to executive leadership. So I think bigger than just a job. My job at Chase is to get my people with disabilities who come in at entry-level positions, and I'm looking for pathways for them to get to leadership.
Exactly. So when it comes to building more inclusive businesses, many companies have specific diversity programs for different categories of diversity, such as Hispanic, women, LGBTQIA, and people with disabilities. How can we build more synergy and solidarity across these different aspects of diversity? Do you have any perspective on that, Jim?
I do. I talk about this a lot, and some people may think it's derogatory, but the disability community is considered the runt of the litter in my history. That means we're the smallest dog in the group of dogs that are out there. So the big dogs are women, Black, Hispanic, LGBTQ, etc. And I think we take a back seat because our visible features of disability make people nervous because they don't understand what we have. And we're still hidden. And so they don't know whether they're going to say something politically incorrect or catch something from us. And so it's our responsibility as disability folks, disability workers, managers, executives, to make them feel comfortable for it. I can't tell you how many times at IBM over here, it was a little different because I ended up being in the higher ranks of the business, but at IBM, I was a corporate director. But early in my career, people were wondering, how can I be a manager? How could I be a leader? How could I have a staff of 12 people? Are they all here to help me, or am I there to leave them? So I think that we have to work on that. And I don't think it'll ever change, because if you look back on 30 years, we're still fighting the basics of disability inclusion. And some banks or companies are doing it better than others, but overall, we still got a long way to go to build that camaraderie up, and that how do you allay the doubts of people that think you're less than because you are disabled?
Vincenzo, you grew up in Venezuela. You're born in Venezuela. How does your perspective, coming from another country, impact how you see the intersectionality between different diversity groups and people with disabilities?
Yeah, so I think that, again, I think this is something that, oftentimes the intersectionality, what it does is like it makes the discrimination and the isolation exponential, right? Because if you're a woman, you might be discriminated because you're a woman. But if you're a Black woman, you can be even more discriminated because on top of that, you're a Black woman. And if you're a Black woman with a disability, you are you're triple discriminated, so making it even more complicated. But so with that, what I think, and that happens also with Hispanics, right? With Latinx, in my case, people might have the first reaction, oh, wow, this guy have an accent, and have all the biases that it creates, all the unconscious biases that it creates when you talk to somebody that has an accent. And then you see me on a wheelchair, and then increases on top of that all the biases, that people might have with that. So that's the negative side of it. The positive side of it is that, because what I said before, because the evolution of corporate responsibility and social justice and all those groups working together can actually create synergies that make them as a group more powerful. So for example, to give you, talking about BRGs, right? So at Coke, we have LGBTQ BRG, African Americans, women BRG, disability. When all those BRGs work together for something, the impact is amazing. And the impact in the short term and in the long term becomes incredible. In the long term, because of that awareness that it creates, and the short term, because it actually addresses specific problems that impact and affect all those minorities.
Thank you, Vincenzo. And myself, as a Korean American, I've also experienced some of the same things as you. Could we just wrap up with a quick sentence each from you on what advice you could give to job seekers? Jim, perhaps we'll start with you.
Yeah, I want to let job seekers know that at Chase, we hire people who are qualified to work here. Not everybody could work at a bank, and you need the skills to do that. Now, by saying that, I want to tell you that we've hired over 4,200 people since I've been here when I got here in 2016. And so I've got bankers, I've got people on the IDD spectrum working for us too, who are doing a level of work that we need done where they get paid equally for that kind of labor. I've got about 185 people on the autism spectrum working here. And I got a variety of people who are blind, mobility impaired, and deaf. We opened a bank near Gallaudet University that's deaf friendly with signers and interpreters and technology. We plan to do more of that across the country. And so we're building from a platform that we hope where we could become the great equalizer for people with disabilities in terms of our services. I don't think that it's a layup to do hiring, because when you hire people with disabilities, we get, of the 4,200, we have people with a range of disabilities. So what that forced us to do, for example, is set up an accommodations team that has delivered over 20,000 accommodations in the last 4 years, including furniture. We set up a standard and a policy. We trained 14,000 managers. We've done a lot to build this inclusive culture, and that takes time. And it's a systems approach. It's not hiring one person at a time, which is how it starts, but how do you support those people when they come in here. You could hire them, but if you do nothing for them, they will fail. So how do you create a culture that's inclusive and recognizes the talents of everyone? That's the hard part of the work as well.
Definitely bring up some interesting challenges. I'd like to thank both of our panelists, Jim and Vincenzo, for participating today.